What's up, everybody? We are back with a shorter video for you guys today. Bookborn is joining us to do a Potter Watch episode in just a little bit, but I really wanted to chat with her about Dungeon Crawler Carl real quick because it's something that we've all gotten into lately. As always, links to our socials and stuff are in the description, as is Bookborn's channel, so be sure to check those out. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it and talk about some Dungeon Crawler Carl. Welcome, Bookborn, back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time you were on was for the Creators Corner, like way back when.
Was that what it was?
I think so. Years ago. We I know. We talked about the Titanic, had a great like hour-long conversation about the Titanic.
Yeah, we did.
She's like, I'm getting over my own PTSD. We were just talking about Red Rising PTSD. She's like, I'm getting over my own PTSD of talking about the Titanic forcefully.
No, it was great. I had no regrets.
Oh, but I wanted to talk to you about Dungeon Crawler Carl because there was kind of this thing that happened on YouTube recently where like DCC just blew up. Like it just blew up all of a sudden. Mike's Book Reviews is talking about it. Daniel Green's talking about it. Captured in Words, Murphy Napier, a bunch of other YouTube...
I got Murphy to read it.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
And yeah. I think I might have convinced Mike to read it too. So some of those are
exactly.
me.
I mean, I think you convinced me to read it because
like, I take credit for a couple of those.
For sure. Yeah, please do. Because it just blew up, and it was something that I would see talked about on Twitter. And I vehemently just do not like lit RPG as a genre. Like, Gabe has tried to get me to read a few of them, and I have never clicked with them. I've always hated the +1 to strength, +1 to constitution, +1, like this big list of like stats that you get. It drives me up a freaking wall. And I saw people talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl for the past few years, and I was just like, I get that it's this popular thing, but I don't like this genre, so I'm not going to like it. But then when it blew up in the mainstream booktube, like, you know, like I said, like you, Mike, Murphy, Daniel, I was like, okay, there's got to be something else to this that I'm not seeing, because none of these people would generally like this niche kind of subgenre, right? And so I messaged the group podcast chat. And I was like, Sam, Gabe, I think we need to try Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I wasn't super committed to it because I was still like, I don't know. But Sam was the first of us to go ahead and read it. And
I think it was like within hours of you texting us. And it wasn't even a super convincing text where he's like, oh my God, you guys, like we have to know. It was just like, hey, I'm hearing, some buzz about Dungeon Crawler Carl. And it happened to be free on my Kindle Unlimited, and I have a subscription. So I was like, oh, like it's not going to cost me anything to give it a shot. And when I say 5 pages and I could not stop reading, I'm shocked because every time I explain this book to people, they're like, what? Like, Sam, you read some crazy stuff. And I'm like, no. Yes, but also like just give it a shot. And my one girlfriend is blowing through it. She started it a couple days ago and she's already on book 3, I think. So it's definitely worth the hype.
Yeah. And like, you told everybody that you were really enjoying it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going to do it. Let's do like one episode. We'll talk about the first book. I'll bag on it for an hour. Gabe will love it. Sam will love it. And I'll be the odd man out, like whatever. And I started reading it, and I don't think I was as hooked as early as you were. But I mean, by halfway through the first book, I was like, okay, all right, I'm enjoying this a lot more than the other lit RPG that I've read. And by the time, when I got to the very end of book 1, I was like, okay, I'm not like over the moon sold, but I'm like, I need to pick up book 2. Like I need to pick up book 2 like immediately. And so I did that, and then I was sold. After like upon starting book 2, I was immediately in. So I've finished book 7. Bookborn, you've finished book 7. And Sam is very close to finishing book 7, so we won't spoil any major stuff in book 7. But Bookborn, tell us a little bit about your journey with it. Like, how did you find it? Like, what convinced you to read it? Have you read Lit RPG before?
Well, I have read Lit RPG before, mostly through SPFBO.
Okay.
Which, for those watching who have no idea what that is, that's the self-published fantasy blog off that's run by Mark Lawrence for self-published fantasy. So I was a judge of that for several years. And through the slush pile, as we call it, got a lot of Lit RPG, and I was not a fan of any of them. I was the same, Spencer. I was just like, Lit RPG is just not for me.
Mhm.
And I had said that to my husband, Zach, which I know you guys know, but again, I said that to Zach, and Zach's like, well, if you're gonna write off a whole genre, you should probably at least read the most popular one. You should give Dungeon Crawler Carl a try. And I looked at the cover of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I said, no, I'm not gonna read that. Like, now, you know what, my chair's in the way, but like now I own them, all the new ones. Can you see them? Yeah, I own all the new ones now. But at the time when he said that, they hadn't been picked up, whatever it's called, traditionally. They were still being self-published. If you haven't seen the self-published cover, like, oh, hello, Gabe.
Hey, Gabe.
Hey.
We're talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl.
I feel left out that my thing doesn't have a little thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, do I need to change my name? I'll just do that. Okay. Nice. So he was telling me I should read it, and he had actually already read the ones that were out, and he was like, they're really good, they're really funny. And I was just like, okay, I don't know, whatever. But then Django Wexler reached out to me about his new book and possibly getting an interview about it, and asked if we could dual interview Matt Cinnamon. And I said, sure, I'm down. I've been told I should read Dungeon Crawler. Like, this is a perfect opportunity. So I read it before the interview. And actually, I was kind of the same, Spencer, which is like, I read it. I gave it a 4, which is like a good score for me. I thought it was hilarious. I really enjoyed it. Was not planning on going on. Actually, at all. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. But to me, it was like, this is probably all it's ever going to be. And I don't know if I want to read 7 books of just this. Like, I enjoyed it. Even though people told me that. But I was in like a reading slump. It was like 7 months between reading the first one and the second one. And then I think I read 2nd through 7th in a few months. Like, after I read book 2, I was 100% sold. I was like, oh, he is totally doing something completely different. Like, this has really deep character moments. Like, this isn't just silly goofy all the time. And so I recommend to everyone to give it 2 books. They're so short. It's not exactly a commitment.
And do the audio. Did you do the audio?
I did, and I'm an audio hater. So I mean, I loved his audiobooks, I should say. Jeff Hayes is amazing. I'm saying I don't usually like audio. Sam, you and I were talking about, like, before we started recording, you said you read slower if it's physical. I'm the opposite. Audiobooks take me 10,000 years.
Mine is more, I can really only listen to audiobooks if I physically read it before. If I haven't physically read the book before, it's weird. My brain doesn't stick in my brain the same way as if I physically read the book first. So I do mostly physical reading, but I commute through a very busy part of Connecticut every day. So I have a lot of time in traffic. And that's when I usually do like most of my audiobooks.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. I only read a couple audiobooks a year usually, because audio just like me and audio just don't get along.
Yeah.
But I also don't like digital books. And so at some point, like, I got to the point and I wanted to buy the new versions, and they're not all published. So I just audioed it. But if they came out, then I read them. Because I read so much faster physically. Because when I'm audioing, I can only audio at 1.5 speed. That's my max. And I can only do it while I'm like doing dishes. Like, any task that takes the smallest amount of brain power, I'm gone. So it's just, it just takes too long. But I do highly recommend the audiobooks. They are hilarious. So I have listened to a lot of them.
They're incredible. I love the voice for the AI. Mana Toast. Yeah, that's the joke we always go back to. It's from the first or second book, and it's Carl picks up the this thing, and it's the AI comes on. He's like, it's Mana Toast, and I think the reason why this is funny is up to this point, all of the descriptions for all of the items have been very like detailed, like this thing does this, and when you do this, it does this, and +1 to strength, and all this stuff. And he picks up this mana toast, and the AI is just like, it's a piece of toast. And when you eat it, it gives you mana. That's it. F you. Like, it's just like, it's so good. It's one of my favorite jokes in the series. But yeah, it's great. I think it's got such good humor, and I think that's what really reeled me in, especially in the second book. The humor started clicking with me a lot more. At first, in the first book, I was like, okay, this is typical like lit RPG kind of humor, and I didn't hate it, but I was just like, yeah, it's pretty standard for the genre, I think. And then it just started clicking with me. And as soon as Mongo came on board, Mongo is like my favorite character in the entire series so far. I love just like my favorite, one of my favorite moments with Mongo is when they start making the clone Mongos. And he's like, they like do it for the first time, and they're all like jumping around together and super excited like a dog. And then when the clones expire, they turn into like these puddles on the floor or whatever. And Mongo just goes over there and he like looks at it and then looks up at Carl like, what the hell? Like, what is going on? And so I love all of his like little mannerisms and everything. But yeah, I've just been enjoying it a lot. Do you what do you think about like the overall like plot and like the world and everything? Does that itch that part of the like the fantasy experience, like those really detailed like fantasy worlds? Do you think it lives up to that?
I mean, I don't know necessarily that it's like I needed that for a fantasy itch. I more needed it so that I wasn't reading 20 levels of a dungeon. Like because they've expanded it politically and there's like a bunch of actual like real life story happening and characters are developing, especially like I was really surprised when things started happening with the AI. And obviously I'm not going to spoil that for people who haven't read, but that was like a really surprising turn to me that I really loved because again, when you're on the 7th book and you're in the 9th level of the dungeon, I don't feel like I've read the same book 7 times because each book is adding another world element and progressing that plot. And so I think it was just more needed there for like, and I think that's why it has become so popular. Is because of that, I think.
Yeah, because you never really know like what each level is going to be. And I think I was worried about the same thing because in the first book, he's just in like kind of all these like corridors, very like dungeon-y feeling kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, is the next level just going to be another labyrinth kind of like this? But when they get to, I think it's the 3rd book where there's all the buses and trains and everything, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I've never seen this done before, where your level is basically a subway station, like a train station, and you're kind of following following all these like tracks and everything. But the part that really started to hook me is when they started getting certain abilities and using them in conjunction with each other and finding ways for the magic system to really, really work well together. Like in the 3rd book, Katya has this ability where the faster she goes, the more health she has, and she's also a like shapeshifter kind of character. And so she makes this wedge at the front of the at the front of the train, and they get the train going faster and faster and faster, so that as they keep going, her health keeps going up, and stuff like that is just it's really interesting how they use all of their abilities in really cool ways. Okay, so do you have any like cons to the series? Any like downsides?
Yeah, it's so freaking crass.
Okay.
There is a part in every book where I am just like, this is too far for me. Every book. And I say that will never change. Every book I read, I'm like, Matt, it would cross the line for me. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely see.
Yeah, I think that's totally warranted. It gets pretty gnarly sometimes.
Mhm.
Pretty gnarly.
Yeah. I would say that's fair. It doesn't bother me at all, but I could see like some of the humor is pretty far
And like
out
it
there.
only gets away with it because it is so freaking funny. Like
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
laugh out loud reading this book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it is so funny, legitimately. It's not like oh ha in your head. It's like actually laugh out loud funny.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
your stomach hurts from laughing so hard.
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
like that is why I forgive it. But every book there is a scene where I'm just like so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Every book.
Yep. Yep, that's fair. I
And
love
someone like messaged me and they're like, "Oh man, they're like this foot fetish thing," and I said, "Buckle up! If you are worried about foot fetish thing,
it gets so much worse.
buckle up! Like,
Yeah.
you stop now if you're like
That's
not going to
the
be
tip
able
of
to
the
handle it
iceberg.
because
Tip of the
Yeah.
iceberg.
I don't even blink. I don't even blink anymore when that stuff happens.
I know. Yep.
Like
Yep.
there's that scene where one of the NPCs is making Carl horny, for lack of a better word, and Donut says like, "Ew, Carl, you have an erection. Like, put that away. Mondo's just a child." You know, like I just find it hilarious. I love it.
No, that's nothing. That's nothing. That's like, that doesn't even cross the meter anymore for me. It has to be like so bad. And every book has
Yeah.
one.
Yep. Shad, I recommend trying the second
Oh
one.
yeah, if you haven't read
Yeah,
the
because
second
that's
book,
what I said, right? I wasn't sold at all after the first one. I mean, didn't read the second one for 7 months. Second one sold me.
yeah, I DNF'd the first one the first time I read it, and then I got past book 1.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, Shad, if you didn't find it funny, I think that's perfectly warranted for the first book, but like at least try the second one because I think he kind of finds a rhythm for his humor, and he kind of finds like the niche that works. I mean, if you hated the loot box stuff, I don't really know what to tell you. That doesn't really go away. But I think,
favorite.
yeah, me too. Like I think it does it so much better than other series that I've read where it's like it does have the like +1 to strength, +1 to constitution, but it does it in like a dialogue-y way. It's not like a list of stats. It's like it's kind of telling you what this piece of armor does rather than you got this piece of armor, here's all the stats.
I think actually the bigger thing is that later on after book 1, every stat point is tied to a character trait.
Yes.
So really the stat points are in service to character growth and what that means for the character, which is why I think actually it works better than a lot of lit RPG I've read.
Yeah, and I think what I said in my review is that, you know, at first I wouldn't have cared if Carl had, you know, 10 dexterity or whatever, but by the third book, there's certain stats that he needs to focus on in order to use like other items or in order for things to be more effective or whatever. So by the third book, I wanted him to use his, you know, like his, not slingshot, but like the little scoop that he has on his arm. Hysteria. In order to use that, he needed higher dexterity. And so every time he would get something that gives him more dexterity, I was invested in that because I wanted to see him be better with this like weapon, right? And so I think it does a really good job of not just like throwing random stats at you, but like having them mean something. Like charisma, is Donut's like personality, right? Like that makes her like personality and likability and everything go up. And so by attaching it to characters in that way, it does a huge service for the series. We're going to wrap up on this, but real quick, I just wanted to say, and I was curious to get your thoughts on this, Bookborn. My only con, really, for the series is that he is as a writer, he is a pantser, which for those that don't know, it means that he kind of makes it up as he goes along. He doesn't really have an outline. And I typically do not, and obviously there's wiggle room here, but typically I don't enjoy books that are pantsed. I like something to have an outline so that the author can show like concrete foreshadowing in the first and second book, so that by the time we get to the fifth and sixth book, it's like, oh, I can see how all of this was building to that by doing a reread and seeing it from the very beginning, like Dresden Files. If you reread that series, you're like, oh my God, he's a mastermind. He knew where Harry was going to be in the seventh book, way back in the first book, and you can see that footprint throughout. And so I think it's literally impossible to do foreshadowing if you're a pantser. And so that's the only thing. When I did my Dungeon Crawler reread, I did notice that, where in the first and second books, I'm like, I'm not seeing like any foreshadowing for like the fifth and sixth books or anything like that. Like maybe there's like a little bit of foreshadowing for like the next book. But you can really tell that he didn't have like a concrete outline for where Carl would be 5 or 6 books from now. Did you notice anything like that, Bookborn? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would be surprised if he still considers himself as much of a pantser as he used to be. I think it's much more obvious in the early books, and now I think he is more intentionally foreshadowing. That's just my opinion. I mean, it might not be, but he's
Sure.
reading a little bit more like a gardener, which is what people call George R. R. Martin, which is that they leave a lot of seeds, and then some grow into something and some don't. And I do feel like he's doing that a lot, because there will be things that are kind of left in book 3 and 4, and then he will pick them up and make something out of them in book 5 or 6. Which I think has been interesting. So far right now, generally I'm the same. Pantsers sometimes make me nervous. But so far the books have been moving really well. Character development happening really well. So like, it hasn't affected me yet. I don't need everything to be Sanderson levels of Machiavellian. Like, I'm okay if some things are just a little bit more, every book. But I do hope that it stays as tight as it has been. Like, I hope it doesn't turn into like 15 books. His original plan was 10. I think it's possible to do 10. I also think it's possible he might do more, but I hope it's not too many more. Like, I hope he really keeps it as tight as he has. I think if he does, then the pantsing won't be as a big of a problem, I guess. So I hope he just keeps the story tight. And I think enough has happened every book that I'm not concerned about it yet. I'll still trust him.
I would very much agree. Where, like, as of right now, I fully trust him as an author, and I think he's doing a great job book to book. And that's why I say there is a bit of a wiggle room with my opinion on pantsers, because sometimes you do get somebody who's just like really, really good at, keeping everything kind of balanced and afloat and all that. Because I think with pantsers, sometimes you have one book that is like super detailed with all of these crazy twists and turns, and the next one just isn't as consistent. But so far he's had like a really good consistency across all his books. And I feel the same. It really hasn't affected me yet. It's more of just like a long-term kind of thing, where it's like, I wish there was a little bit more foreshadowing, but hopefully he's got a plan now, and he kind of knows where he's going with Carl and Donut and all them. All right, well, we are going to wrap this segment up there. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, while we talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. I don't know when, in what order these are going to get posted, but you will see a Potter Watch episode probably here in the near future with Bookborn, where we're going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy. So join us for that, and we'll see you in the next one. Later, guys.